Looks like a good little pocket. Nice hard bottom. I got something for him. All right. And how about that? It's still rigged up from the last tournament I fished. You know, creature bait fishing, it's been around for a really, really long time. And over the last couple years, one of the most popular ones, matter of fact, the most popular, the best selling creature bait is that guy right there, bandito bug. And we all know that Texas rigging, pitching and flipping along the bank, a bandito bug works really well, especially in the springtime during the spawn. We know it works on a Carolina rig, drag really, really slow. It works on the back of a jig. But today, I'm gonna be fishing this bandito bug on a swing head or a wobble head or a biffle head, whatever you wanna call it. It's just a 7/16 ounce, like a ½ ounce football head design, and it swings, it swivels on a 4/0 EWG hook. And the beauty of this setup right here, whether there's a red hot cranking bite or a red hot jig bite, this little setup right here actually combines the two, cranking and jigging. You could fish this thing really, really fast and it catches a lot of big bass. So, you know, we all know Texas rigging creature baits work. Mainly because when you're Texas rigging, you're pitching and just kind of flipping along. Most of the time it's just a row just along the bank, whether it's an isolated rock or an isolated tree or whatever it is. But when you're pitching and flipping a creature bait like this bandito bug here, you pitch it out there, and as it falls down, all these appendages are moving, and it's just so temptatious for a bass. As this thing's falling down in front of its face with a Texas rig, the bass just eat it a lot of the times on the fall. But Texas rigging, you're really limited. You could pitch it out there, it falls down, maybe 1 or 2 hops. Doesn't work very well when you're dragging a Texas rig. So Texas rigging only works when you're fishing, in my opinion, it works best when you're fishing isolated pieces of cover like a laydown or one single rock or one grass patch or whatever it is. Carolina rigging, quite the opposite. You know, a bandito bug works really well on a Carolina rig, especially in the state of Texas. Offshore brush piles, long extending points, ledges, things like that. And when you drag it along, you know, it's kind of unrestricted because of the weight is out in front of it, and you just kind of rig a Carolina rig and you just kind of drag it along, and the bandito bug does its thing. All these little appendages move slow and steady. And now, you know, when you introduce this wobble head, you have the best of both worlds. And what I mean by that is you could pitch it around, it falls vertically, you could get those reaction bites on the fall, and it's really weedless. But then going back to the Carolina rig and a crankbait, you can move it horizontally really well. So that's the beauty of a wobble head when you fish it around, you know, offshore rocks, ledges, you know, rock piles, you know, brush piles. It's very, very weedless, and you could just work it really, really fast horizontally. So it just kind of combines those two rigs, Carolina rigging and Texas rigging, all in one. And you don't really need real stout equipment. I mean, I'm throwing this on a 15-pound test, 15-pound fluorocarbon. It works on 17-pound fluorocarbon. But to me, the sweet spot is at 15. It's very unrestricted on 15-pound test. I use a 7'2" medium heavy rod. It's your spinnerbait rod. And wherever you throw a spinnerbait, you could throw this wobble head, and I throw a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. The key with this wobble head fishing, and you know, this was made kind of real famous just several years ago in the state of Oklahoma, because Oklahoma's got so many of those rock bars. But as I grab a brand new bandito bug, what I want to do here, and this color is natural. This is called a natural color. It's just natural. It's a natural color, and they call it natural. But what I like to do is all these arms and legs, these front appendages, we want to separate them. And in my opinion, to really you know, use a bandito bug to its full potential, you take off, you know, you separate all the little appendages, and to really use it to its full potential, in my opinion, there's no better way to rig it than on a wobble head like this. And it's just a nice little 4/0 hook, Texas rigged, just like you would Carolina rigging or Texas rigging. And we just go ahead and bury that hook inside the body. And that is as weedless as can be. But to really use those appendages to their full potential, using that just kind of swing head there, see how it kind of wobbles, you really want to keep it moving. As you pitch it out there, flip it out there, cast it out there, as it hits the bottom, you keep it moving. As it hits the bottom, you're just pulling along, pull along. See how I've got all the paint chipped off of it. The last tournament I fished, we caught a lot of fish on it. But you want to knock all the paint off there as you possibly can. And what you want to do is you want to just keep it moving. Reel it along. As it hits all those little rocks, it'll come along, and all these little appendages that the bandito bug has, they keep moving, and it looks identical to a crawdad, just kind of walking across the bottom or skirting across the bottom. And that rig right there catches a lot of big fish. Just this year alone, I've caught a lot of big bags and a lot of big fish on this rig right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and retie this, just because this last tournament I had, caught a lot of good fish on it. Thing just straight up gets bit this time of year. Another nice one. Oh my gosh, stay on there. Just barely freaking hooked. Nice. That was awesome. Freaking bandito, man. Bandito on a wobble, man. Bailing me out of a tough tournament. Whew.
3 something.
Little bandito bug. It's a great start for how tough it is. There's another one on the bandito, man. These are good ones. Whew. The bite is really tough, man. And they're biting this thing. So color selection, I get asked about colors pretty much almost every day. Keep it really simple. If you're on a lake where the water clarity is fairly clear, what I mean by that is anywhere, 3 feet of visibility or greater, keep it simple. Watermelon red or green pumpkin. Now you can mix in some variants of green pumpkin, like blue baby. That is a killer when you notice bluegills along the bank, or if blue is one of your confidence color. That's a killer color. But in my opinion, these 3 colors are visually they're different. But to me, fishing wise, I feel like a fish won't pass on watermelon red just to bite green pumpkin, or pass on blue baby just to bite watermelon red. In my opinion, these hues are all pretty much similar. They got that green pumpkin, just that nice green color hue to it. So it's all personal preference, but to me, those are all pretty much the same. This natural color, that's pretty much the same in there. The only time I'll mix it up is when it's stained, 2 feet of visibility or less, stained water, dirty water. You go down there in Florida where it's tannic colored water. Bama bug is hard to beat, man. It is really, really hard to beat. It's got the green pumpkin, but it mixes a little bit of June bug in there as well. June bug works really, really well in those stained waters. And pretty much other than that, black and blue is the only other color I'd throw. And that's in really, really stained water where you're a foot of visibility or less. But all of these colors work really, really well on a swing head. So keep it really simple. Weight wise, if you're fishing 10 feet of water or less, I like that 1/2 ounce or 7/16 ounce. If you're fishing down there 20-25 feet of water out in the summertime when they get on those brush piles and isolated rocks offshore, go with a 3/4 ounce. I really don't go heavier than 3/4 ounce. So 3/4 ounce on a 17-pound test fluorocarbon handles that 20 to 25 feet of water, no problem. And then I'll go as light as about a 1/4 ounce wobble head on a bandito bug, and that's really when you're fishing around grass, shallow grass in Florida, shallow grass in Alabama or Texas, just kind of floating it through there, keeping it moving. So again, the biggest key, you'll see me as I hop on the trolling motor here, we start fishing around. The biggest key, cast it out there and keep it moving like a crankbait. Again, this technique blends crankbait fishing with jig fishing. So slow jig fishing with fast cranking, this little happy medium, and it catches a lot of big fish. All right, let's go fishing. Felt a bunch of rocks there, and then I casted 5 or 6 feet to the left, and there's nothing. Really cool part about, you know, wobble heading a bandito bug is, man, I can, with this rod setup, you know, it's my spinnerbait rod. It's a 7'2" medium heavy on 15-pound fluorocarbon. You know, it stays on the bottom really well, even though it's, you know, less than half an ounce. It stays on the bottom really well, and I can feel every single one of those shells and pieces of gravel as I'm kind of just pulling it across. And if you stop feeling that stuff, it means one of two things. Either one has it and it's swimming towards you, or you know, you pulled it off a rock and you're winding it too fast and it's off the bottom. So it's really important to use that medium heavy rod and you know, with a little bit of softer tip, so you could feel exactly what's going on down there. That way you could maintain bottom contact. And if that football is not, you know, dragging along the bottom, if you're not knocking the paint off of that head, you're not, you know, you're not being effective with it. So the most action is when it's drug along the bottom there. And the only way to achieve that is the rod tip down and just a nice slow, steady reel motion. I'll get a bite. I'll get a bite somewhere along those rocks right there. And it's not like a jig where we're kind of hopping it along and pausing it real slow. The beauty of this is, you know, it's got the jig capability, that big fish capability, but look at my reel handle here, and I'm keeping it moving just like I would a crankbait, so you can cover a lot of water effectively, and it is a big fish catcher. Every now and then, if I'm, you know, hung up on a rock, whatever, I'll just give it a little pop, and that just gives it the little, you know, that little jig flare. And that sometimes triggers a lot of bites, just like a deflection from a crankbait. Just like a crankbait. Oh my gosh, you see that? Oh, followed it all the way up. That was crazy. That's what I'm saying, man. It's like a little crankbait alternative. Wow. There he is. Oh, that's awesome. Like I was saying, it's pretty versatile. Like, you can't really fish a jig fast like that. We just came to the mouth of a marina here, and it's not a huge one, but that was a fun bite. And this is just like a point at the mouth of a marina where you would normally throw a, you know, a banger, a flat banger, square bill crankbait along here. Like, you could do the same exact thing with our favorite soft plastic creature bait, the bandito bug on a wobble head. Little guy, but a fun one. This right here is a little high percentage spot. We just went from gravel to a bunch of just really chunky rock, and I could see it on my 360 imaging right here. There's just a little point of rock. Awesome little spot for a wobble head. I'm gonna cast up there and just kind of walk it off the rock and let it fall into the gravel. There's one, big one, dude. That's a giant. Gosh, that's a big one. I mean, I'm talking about as textbook as it gets for a wobble-headed bandito bug. Stay on there, big girl. That's a giant, dude. Gosh, stay on there. I was just talking about that rock to gravel transition here. Man, that's a big one. Come here, girl. Oh gosh, come here. Oh no, don't come off. Don't come off. No, 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 no. Come here, come here, come here, come here. Oh my gosh, it's barely hooked. Look at that one, dude. Yes! I was just talking about how perfect that transition spot was. Barely hooked, but she absolutely destroyed it. Check that out. Check that out, Johnny. That is awesome. And I matched that color. Check this out. That color is called Natural. Barely hooked on the outside, but she absolutely demolished it. Came into the back of this little marina right here, and I looked down on my 360 imaging, and I saw, you could look up on the bank where that tire is. There's some really nice chunk rock, and it met this gravel textbook. I almost called that. So much fun throwing that wobble head like that. And I'm not sure that this fish would have bit a crankbait. It may have bit a jig, but when you combine the two, a jig and a crankbait, bandito bug on a wobble head, dude, that is an absolute tanker.